Hey kids, it's time for another episode of Comically Speaking with SPAZ. In this episode of Comically Speaking, I'm going to discuss the Hulk, but I'm not going to discuss the familiar television series starring Bill Bixby and Lou Ferrigno, and I'm not going to discuss the motion pictures. As a matter of fact, I'm not even going to discuss the classic, popular series of Incredible Hulk comics. No. So what am I going to discuss? I'm going to discuss the Immortal Hulk. This new series, written by Al Ewing, with Joe Bennett as penciler, Ruy Jose as inker, and Paul Mounts as color artist, brings the Hulk back to his roots. As many may not know, when they first created the Hulk, Stan Lee compared it to something akin to the Frankenstein monster meets Jekyll and Hyde. And that describes the way the Hulk was originally written. In fact, they used to say, is he man or is he monster? Well, in this, the first book of this series says, or is he both? And if you compare it to Frankenstein's monster and Jekyll and Hyde, you can also add in maybe vampirism, Dracula, because he only comes out at night. And he rises from the dead, so to speak. If Bruce Banner is killed in the Immortal Hulk, after the sun goes down, the Hulk will rise. And the art in this is wonderful. The storytelling is fantastic. It does initially start out more of a horror story, more of a monster story. The Hulk is not a quote-unquote superhero at this point. He is a beast, a monster. Then again, he doesn't just randomly kill people. There is a reason for his rampage, and it's usually to avenge the death of Bruce Banner. Once the Immortal Hulk has done his damage, Bruce Banner does awake alive and well the following morning. The Hulk will never die, so Bruce Banner will never die. Very interesting concept, maybe more so than the original series. This issue 1, it began in 2018, and it has continued into 2019. That's issue number 2. Issue number 3 was, those two were very horror themed, and everyone was getting really excited. Issue 3, they threw a lot of people for a loop, and I found it very interesting because in this issue, the story, which is entitled Point of View, in this issue, they're interviewing 3 different witnesses about the events of a certain incident. And with 3 different points of view, they are represented by 3 different styles of art. And this goes back and forth throughout the whole issue. That was the first person. That's the second. And this is the third. It's a very creative way of telling a story, especially after 2 horror-filled issues. Then they get back into telling similar stories. This is an absolutely wonderful cover, by the way. It's fascinating because it is very much like the TV series in the fact that Bruce Banner is sort of a loner or a wanderer moving town to town or trying to stay out of trouble and always somehow finding it, or trouble finds him, whichever way. There's another issue there. Now, I know that he's not a superhero in here, but he still is known. He used to be part of the Avengers. The Avengers are aware of him, and of course, they appear here in issue number 7. Once they capture him, oddly enough, don't freak out, but they dissect him into little bits and pieces and put him in a jar, or put him in different jars. But they dissect him into little different pieces and they put him inside jars. How does he get out of there? Well, I'm not going to tell you he gets out of there because that would be a spoiler. And I don't want to spoil anything. But the series does continue, so that's a little telling. But then, believe it or not, while he's facing all these battles on Earth, he ends up in hell. That's right. For 4 issues, the Hulk has found himself in hell. And now, with issue 13, it's the final issue of this particular story arc, and he has found his way out of hell, but you know he's going to get into more trouble. So it's up to 13 issues. It's really fascinating. It's a fun read. There is horror, adventure, there's some humor. It's got a dark tinge to it. It's nothing like the Hulk that you are familiar with on TV and in the movies. It's not goofy, fun, smash, but there is little bits of that throughout the series. Well, that's it for me talking about the Immortal Hulk. I'd like to remind everybody, please support your local comic shops. This is art. This is history. It goes much deeper than the Sunday funnies that you used to read when you were a kid. There's so much depth, so much meaning, and there's a lot of fun involved too. For Comically Speaking, I'm SPAZ. Thank you for watching, and go read a comic book, muckalucka.